Well, good evening. How's that for my spooky voice? Happy Halloween, everyone. I have a special treat for you tonight. I'm going to do a spooky Halloween special. Out here in the desert, all by myself. Got a nice little campfire. Got my dog, if I can ever get her to stop scanning the desert. People ask me all the time, what's the craziest or scariest or weirdest thing you've ever seen in your travels? So I thought it would be a really fun thing to do on this Halloween, just days before the big day next week, to take our mind off of everything that's been stressing us out and just have a little fun. So I've got 3 stories for you tonight of the spookiest, creepiest, skin-crawlingest, oddest things I have ever experienced camping and RVing. And I'm not sure, 2 of them I'm not sure you have ever heard before. I'm going to save the biggest one until the end. This one still keeps me awake at night, thinking like, what the heck was that? So I'm going to be anxious to know if any of you might have any ideas about what that is. A little warm next to the fire for my hat. All right, so my first scary, creepy, crawly story for you tonight is a camping story. It was way before RV life. Some girlfriends and I had a trip planned for Yosemite to stay in a campground in tents in Yosemite. This was like 2012, maybe 2013. And there were big, huge fires all around Yosemite. But our trip wasn't canceled. The campground was open. The park was open. So we decided to go ahead and go forward with our camping trip. Well, I think it was the first night. It was pretty smoky in the air and everything, but Yosemite is notorious for bears. So you have to be very bear aware. You have to be really careful about stashing your food properly. You can't even really leave food in your car. You can't leave food in your car, especially like not in the front seat. You can't leave ice chests. They break into cars. So you really have to put them in the bear lockers. You can't sleep with any food in your tent. You know, when I was on the Pacific Crest Trail a few years ago, I slept with my food at my feet in a scent-proof bag just because out there in Oregon, I felt like they weren't acclimated to people like they were in Yosemite. So we were really, really careful. After we ate, we put all our food in the lockers and put everything away, you know, in the trunk of the car and out of sight, and made sure everything was put away. Well, I go into my tent and I'm checking all my pockets and I'm checking my backpack pockets and everything to make sure I don't have any leftover food or toiletries. You can't sleep with toiletries either. The smell of deodorant, shampoo, toothpaste, things like that will attract bears. So you have to make sure somebody knows I have treats in my pocket, so that she doesn't go running off into the desert. So I'm checking all my pockets to make sure I don't have any toiletries left. I found a chapstick in my pocket, and it was pretty late. I think I was already in my sleeping bag. I'm like, I am not getting up and putting it in the car or the bear box. So I literally chucked it out my door. Like threw it out my door as far as I could from sitting inside my tent. Couple hours later, I'm sleeping, and I'm woken up by footsteps outside, like literally like right outside my tent. And of course, my first thought is always bear. There's a bear out there. Okay, I've backpacked by myself way out in the middle of nowhere. I've heard bears outside my tent before. I've heard them frolicking in the reeds and in the water, and I've heard bears before. And I was like, okay, it's a bear. But it sounded bipedal. I heard, I mean, not like that, because it was like on solid forest ground. But I heard footsteps, literally like right by my head. And of course, I'm laying there, I'm holding my breath, And I'm like, what is that? What is that? And I'm just super still, holding my breath. And all of a sudden, I hear something fling, like something hit a tree, like a click, like it hit a picnic table, something small, like hit something. And I'm like, what is going on out there? Okay, it's got to be just a bear getting into something, maybe knock something off the table. And I continued to hear footsteps around my tent, and they sounded bipedal. Honestly, I don't know if I could know the difference between a bipedal and a quadrupedal animal being outside my tent, but to me it sounded bipedal. And I'm laying there going, okay, just go to sleep. It's not going to bother you. It's got to be a bear. At first I thought it must have been a person. And I'm like, is there a person walking through our campsite? I mean, that would have been really weird. There was no reason to walk through our campsite. My tent was here. Friend's tent was over there. It was over there. There was no reason for somebody to walk through my campsite. But that thought did also cross my mind at some point when I thought it was bipedal. I'm like, okay, somebody's just walking through the campsite. But it kept going. And literally it was like circling my tent. And then I heard that weird noise. I'm like, it's got to be a bear. I'm imagining things. It's 4-footed. It's got to be a bear. And literally I'm laying there going, just go to sleep. Just go to sleep. And I heard something sniffing my head through the tent. I shit you not. I heard something go through the tent, sniffing my head. And I was like, oh my God, what is that? It's got to be a bear. It's got to be a bear. And eventually it went away. It stopped. The sniffing at my head stopped. I mean, all I'm thinking at that point is, thank God I got rid of my chapstick, right? Otherwise it might break in from my chapstick. Eventually the footsteps went away, the sniffing on my head, and of course, again, I'm laying there going, I must be imagining things. This can't be happening. And I go to sleep and wake up the next morning and I ask my friends, did you guys hear anything last night? They're like, no, didn't hear a thing. I'm like, there were footsteps, blah, 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 you know, and they're like, wow, really? And I'm like, it must have been a bear. And I get out and I'm looking for bear prints around my tent and I don't see anything. Of course, the ground wasn't conducive to leaving prints. It's for, you know, pine leaves and pine needles and leaves and stuff like that, and kind of solid, so you wouldn't, not dirt, nothing that you could really see footprints in. But I'm looking around, all around my campsite, I'm looking for bears. So the real weird kicker is, my tent was probably 50 feet, 75 feet maybe from the picnic table. Maybe not that far. The picnic table was far enough away that there was no way I could have thrown my chapstick over it and on the other side of it from sitting down inside my tent when I just went like this. But lo and behold, I found my chapstick on the way, like 10 feet on the other side of the picnic table on the ground. Yeah, whatever was outside my tent picked up my chapstick and threw it. Maybe like they picked it. I mean, and can a bear can't pick up chapstick. The big old paws, they can't pick up a little tiny thing of chapstick. So here's my theory. There were a lot of fires. I'm thinking it was Bigfoot. I'm thinking Bigfoot was chased out of his or her natural habitat because of the fires and ended up in Yosemite and picked up my chapstick and was like pissed off about it, I don't know, and threw it against a tree. And it flew across the camp. So that's one of the mysteries of my RV, of my life, of my camping life. I still, to this day, it must have been a bear. Maybe I did throw the chapstick. I don't know. I don't know what it was. So what do you guys think it was? What do you think? Do you think it was a bear? You think it was Bigfoot? You think it was a human? You think it was something supernatural? So, that's story number 1. I've got 2 more for you. You know what's really scary? Running out of power. Whether you're on a backpacking trip with all your camera gear, or you're camping, or you live in a 6 and bricks and there has been a weather catastrophe, being cut off, not having a way to charge your phone, your radio, your lights, or any of your electronics can be really, really spooky. And that's why I was really happy that Bluetti wanted to sponsor today's spooky video so that I could tell you about their latest innovation, the Bluetti Hands-Free 2. This might look familiar because last Sunday I reviewed the Hands-Free 1, but this is the Hands-Free 2. It's a bigger backpack. It's 60 liters. The other one is 42. So if you are going to be using it for camping or for a go bag, you're going to be able to fit a lot of stuff in this 60-liter backpack. This is about what I carried. I think it was a 60-liter backpack that I carried with me when I did the Pacific Crest Trail several years ago. Remember, I hiked the entire state of Oregon on the Pacific Crest Trail. I had I'm pretty sure it was a 60-liter backpack. And not only is the backpack bigger, but the power station is bigger too. You're going to get 700 watts of power in this lightweight 16-pound power station. This is one of the lightest power stations they have come out with, so anybody can lift it. Just about anybody is going to be able to just put it on their back in the backpack and go. And this is why I think it makes a really good go bag. You can stock this up with all your extra batteries and your radio and your first aid kit and your MREs for meals in an emergency. I've always been really impressed with Bluetti's mission to bring us clean energy products. They have been pioneers in research and development in order to keep bringing us state-of-the-art, premium, high-quality, portable power stations that are going to last. So with the Bluetti Hands-Free 2, it's got 2 USB-C ports, 2 USB-A ports. It has an AC port, so you can just plug in your regular 110, 120 volt electronics. You can charge it either by plugging it into shore power or by solar. And with full power plugged into shore power, it's going to go from 0 to 80% in just 45 minutes. So if you are looking for power on the go for hiking, camping, backpacking, or you're looking for a go bag or a backup power source that you can manage, something lighter weight than maybe one of the heavier ones, this is the perfect solution for you. And if you shop now using the link in the video description below, Bluetti is going to give you a special deal for my audience only using the links below and or the discount code. So go ahead and check the link in the video description below. And thank you very much, Bluetti, for sponsoring this video and for being an excellent partner to this channel. Let's get back to our scary stories. Something a little less realistic than post-apocalyptic thinking. Welcome back to scary story number 2 in Carolyn's RV Life Halloween special. I'm goofy. All right, the second story many of you have heard, but I'm constantly asked, so I'm going to go ahead and tell the story again. I was in Alaska. It was early in the morning. I was near Valdez. I was camped at an old landing strip. It was all grown over, huge landing strip. You know, they have landing strips all over Alaska and kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And when I went to sleep, I was the only one there. I was the only camper parked there, I believe. Seems like when I got up in the morning, there was another one way, way, way on the opposite end of the runway. So I let Capone out, because I still had Capone at the time, and let him out while I was making coffee, you know, keeping an eye on him. Just, you know, standing at the door, keeping an eye on him. And at that point, you know, he wasn't going very far. So I went inside to pour my coffee. And when I came back out, and I think I was calling him to come in. I can't remember. I feel like I was grabbing the door, and I was about ready to call him. I caught a being, something, on 2 feet, head to toe dark, probably about 100 yards away, walking toward a berm. There was a flat area and then a berm that went up and into a road. It was like a built-up road, and then down into the forest behind the runway. And I mean, I grabbed the door, I looked up, I saw it just as it was getting to the berm. Gosh, it's been a long time now. Climbing up, grabbed a hold of a branch of a bush or a tree, and climbed up and went down the other side, and it was gone in a flash. I mean, the whole sighting lasted 10 seconds, and I'm like, holy shit. I mean, it was bipedal. It was not a freaking bear. There's no way it was a bear. Like, holding onto a branch, bipedal, it wasn't a bear. And I was like, oh my God. I called Capone inside, grabbed my coffee, grabbed my phone and my camera, and went running after it to see. By the time I went after it, probably 5 minutes had passed by the time I gathered myself. Maybe not quite that much. And I walked over there. I looked for footprints. I looked down the berm to the other side of the road to see if I could see anything, if I could see any footprints. I literally went for a walk deep in those woods trying to find it. Because when you see something like that, you're like, okay, I know that there are sightings. I know that there are people who say they have seen Bigfoot. And, I mean, I don't believe and I don't disbelieve. I feel like, yeah, I think there's a real possibility that there might be something out there that we haven't discovered yet. I think with all the sightings, and not just modern sightings, but throughout history, Native Americans and Native cultures, and I mean, there have been sightings dating back forever. So I think that there's definitely a chance that there is something that has eluded us. Although it seems harder and harder to believe with modern technology. Oh, that's getting hot. So anyway, I went roaming around the forest in the back looking for it. Of course, I didn't find it, and it was a little creepy back there. I'm like, what if it's watching me? You know, what if there is something? Oh, here, let's do this. But so that's my... What the heck was that? Did this beep? So that is my Bigfoot sighting. I don't know if it was Bigfoot or not. And I know I've told this story a couple times, and some people think it was a bear. I don't think it was a bear. I'm trying to find a light that makes sense here. I don't know why a bear would be walking on 2 legs by itself across a runway. It just didn't make any sense. But, you know, and then I thought there are a lot of people who walk around Alaska in snowsuits, but it was hot. It was the middle of summer or late summer. I think I was out. I mean, it was light out. You know, it's light. It was light almost 24 hours at that point when I was there. I had to put stuff all over my windows. But I think I was out in a short sleeve shirt, you know, so it wasn't cold enough for a head to toe snowsuit. I think I saw Bigfoot. I really do. And to my point earlier of all the sightings throughout history, I keep pressing the button. When you see something like that, you're like, why me? You know, why me? Bigfoot is so elusive, and only some people see them. Like, what are the chances that I would see something? But of course, being out here as much as I am, I guess the chances of me seeing something would probably be greater than a lot of other people. But that is my scary, creepy, mysterious story number 2. And finally, the grand finale. This one, I mean, I still research this every once in a while just to see if anybody else has experienced this. This is freaky. This is like really like inexplicable. Before I tell you this final story, if you like my content and you want to see more, subscribe. Hit that subscribe button right now. Click the bell for notifications so you never miss a goofy, fun, exciting, whatever episode of my RV life. And even if you think you're subscribed, YouTube is unsubscribing people all the damn time. So go ahead and double check and make sure you are still subscribed. All right, my final story. I was backpacking, again, way before my RV life. And it was, gosh, I think it was Christmas. I think I decided to go take a backpacking trip. I think it was Christmas. I was in Ventana Wilderness in Big Sur, and that's south, you know, like way south of San Francisco. Big Sur, big wilderness area. A lot of people backpack there. Oh, hello. So I went on a backpacking trip. It was going to be a 2 or 3 night backpacking trip with Capone. Capone was with me, 10 miles into the hot springs and 10 miles out, of course. So my first night, I was 6 miles in, maybe. I decided to just kind of take a slow day and set up not at the hot springs, but on the way to the hot springs. So I found this nice little spot. I set up camp. We had dinner. We were the only ones there. We're 5 miles out in these. Ventana Wilderness is very like steep, very, very, very rugged. I think maybe that's part of the reason I didn't make it the whole 10 miles is I think it was pretty rugged, more rugged than I expected. So you have these steep inclines and declines and again, very, very rugged, very remote wilderness. Not too far from the coastline, but it is inland and it's very rugged. And everything's going fine. Capone and I, you know, we had dinner. I think we might even have had a little fire. You know, it was Christmas or Christmas Day, maybe the day before Christmas. And so we tuck into the tent, snuggle in, and go to sleep. You know, we're all cuddled up, and literally in the middle of the night, I'm sleeping. Pretty good sleep. Like, I'm not tossing and turning. I had a pretty good sleep, and I am awoken by this loud, earth vibrating screech scratch. Like it sounded like metal on metal. Like it sounded like, I know I'm saying like a lot. It sounded like a backhoe scraping on metal. And it was loud and it vibrated. It shook me out of my sleep. And when I first woke up, I thought something was outside my tent. Something was in my camp because it was just so loud. It startled me so much. I just startled awake thinking like there was a bear in my camp because it just was so startling. But it was a screeching, echoing through the forest. And it only lasted a few seconds. You know, I heard half of it like in my almost coming to state. You know what I mean? Like you hear it, but you're not quite awake yet, but you know you heard it. And then I heard the rest of it when I was awake. So in those few seconds, and I laid there, looked out my window, you know, looked out my door. There was nothing out there. Capone's up, you know, he's looking around, wondering what the heck is going on. And it just went away. Never heard anything after that. I mean, it was a loud roar. Maybe it was a roar. Maybe it was like this wild it wasn't any animal I've ever heard. I've spent a lot of time outside camping, you know, by myself, camping, backpacking, RVing. I have never heard anything. It didn't sound like an animal. It was, I can't even describe it other than, that's what I keep going back to. It sounded like heavy metal on metal. So I guess it could have been like a huge animal, like a Bigfoot. I guess that's the moral of all of these stories. They were all Bigfoot. And I'm laying there going, what? Because it literally, and that's the other reason I don't think it was an animal, is just, or at least any animal that I know of, because it was so big and it echoed through the forest, so big and so profound, and it shook me out of my sleep because I think I felt it. I don't know, man. And I went back to sleep, woke up the next morning, still like scratching my head. What could that have been? Aliens? Maybe a big alien portal had woken up? Had opened up? I don't know. It was, still to this day, I do research, like, and there have been like metal on metal worldwide sounds, what is it, and different theories and things like that. So I packed up, ate breakfast, had coffee, walked around. I did walk around my camp to see if I could see anything out of the ordinary. Nothing looked out of place. Nothing looked out of the ordinary. You know, you would think I could have, if I were in town, I would have been like, okay, well, it was a construction thing. It was like a construction site. But I'm 5 miles out in the wilderness and there's no construction sites for 40 miles around. Maybe, you know, there's nothing around. But I'm packed up and I'm heading out toward the hot springs, and there was another couple down the trail from me, maybe a third of a mile, quarter of a mile down the trail, and they were packing up too, and I was like, hey, did you hear that sound last night? They were like, yeah, what the hell was that? And I'm like, I have no idea. They're like, yeah, I don't know. And they were like dismissive of it, and I'm like, wasn't it really, really loud and really kind of freaky? They were like, yeah. And they're like, okay, pack it up and going, like they weren't interested in coming up with conspiracy theories of Bigfoot or aliens with me, so I just moseyed on. But that was pretty intense. That was a pretty insane thing. So there you have it. My 3 biggest, spookiest, creepiest, mysteriousest, most mysterious stories of all of the camping and backpacking and RV living that I have done. So what do you think? Let me know your theories to any of these in the comments below. And do you have a creepy, crawly, scary, mysterious story of a camping trip or a hiking trip or your RV or van life that still has you scratching your head going, what the heck was that? If so, try to leave it in the comments below. It might be kind of hard to do in comments, but I would like to hear, yeah, I had a weird sound in the middle of the night. I had something similar to you. That would be cool. I'd like to hear that. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful Halloween, and I wish I had some Halloween candy. But I don't. I've been really good. I didn't buy any. Now I'm kind of wishing I did. But you guys have a wonderful, you guys and women, have a wonderful, happy, spooky Halloween. And I will see you Sunday night for another travel video. We are going to Petrified. Speaking of spooky, we're going to the Petrified National Forest. It was really petrified. It was really scared. It was really cool. You know, I couldn't film, but I did take a lot of really cool pictures, and it was a pretty fun stop. So that's Sunday. And again, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, and I'll see you next time. In the meantime, be happy, be free, be kind. I know it's hard. And I will see you Sunday. Take care. Mwah. Nice fire, huh? Wow. Ooh, what's that? What is that? Hey, girl.